The English national rugby team have won a men's international, having previously won women's internationals and other men's internationals. They've beaten Fiji by 38 points to 18, and this was a largely pleasing event for most involved. Would you agree, my fellow reporter Will Owen?
I would certainly agree that for most English people involved, it would have been very pleasing.
Yes, that was most of the people involved because the stadium was mostly full of English people.
Because it took place in the Twickenham Stadium in Allianz in England.
Yes, the town of Allianz. And frankly, most of Fijians probably came out of that going, yeah, right. Yeah, right. It was a bit of a laugh, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's funny, with Fiji, to look at them first and foremost. The best thing about Fiji is the team sheet, you look at it, you see so many players that are utter ballers. I said that's the best thing about Fiji. The best thing is watching those guys play. And just as a rugby fan, the sheer level of entertainment you get from Kalaveti Ravovo, from Joshua Tuisova, from Huita Wainingolo, from like all of these guys, Caleb Muntz, Peter Gus Sawakula, who we'll come on to very shortly, just have got a really exciting team. And the thing about Fiji is, as soon as they got into structured scenarios, they did not look very good. As soon as,
with the exception of the two Econovolo tries.
Yes, yeah, there were moments where they managed to create enough space.
Yeah.
But for example, a lot of the time their edge attack would be a phase in field, and then everybody just kind of gets back to the feet on the blind side and goes, should we just go again here?
Yeah.
Is this good? And then they'll kind of go about 5 meters forward, and that kind of be it. And then England would go, all right, well, we're a defensive team, so we want to get off the line and hunt you.
To get straight into this, I think there's a few interesting things that Fiji, and obviously Mick Burney's off soon, who's done a good job with them, I'd say.
Yeah,
for an unheralded coach, has done a good job with this team. There's a few things that I think he did that were quite smart in terms of working within that and working to those limitations of just knowing the team's weaknesses, right? And so a few times, they just attacked really flat whenever they're running forward runners.
Yeah.
They would start the distance between the two of us from the defense. If I'm the defense, you're basically where Fiji are starting, right? And right next to the breakdowns, they weren't risking an intercept or anything, and just carry straight in. And if your guys are big enough, you will make it to the gain line, right? There's no option to get line speed up. And I thought that was quite smart. If you're just going for disposable carries, if nothing else is on, if you're just working it out to the width so that you can wait for Caleb Muntz to spot something. That's quite smart.
And the other side of this is if somebody breaks a tackle or manages to wriggle free, these guys are all fast. From 1 to 15, you will rarely find a rugby team at any level where every single player is as fast for their position as Fiji. And so if they do end up getting through there, they're already in the gap. They've already got somebody they can pop the ball to who is getting a 1v1 just foot race sprint against somebody they are most likely faster than. So that really works in their favour. And I mean, the try scored by Caleb Muntz was a really good example of this, because they did attack from side to side a little bit before that, and then they put it on Caleb Muntz to make the big decision.
There's literally nothing on here. They've either got smash it up again with another forward group and go nowhere, or Muntz just calls out the back and he's got no one outside him. There is no one around here. If you're England, you're going, this is an easy read. This is nothing. We just shut off his options and we're good. Tommy Freeman starts to come up. The one option he does have is Ravatamanda right out on the touchline. And their options are either we smash up a forward into a forward, or we give Ravatamanda a one-on-one against Tommy Freeman. And Tommy Freeman is as good a defensive wing as you'll find anywhere in the world, but Ravatamanda is Ravatamanda.
Makes a fool of him.
Yeah. He stands him up completely and then paces him on the outside and gets the offload in. And obviously, if it's completely one-on-one, then fine. Tommy Freeman's covered him. If it's a Rugby X style, moment of silence for Rugby X. Sorry, Ben Ryan. One-on-one, then it's a problem. But as there are other Fijians around him, Pika Sautea hits a great line in support, runs that angle, gets another offload in turn to Kuravoli, who then tries a chip kick. It's not a great chip kick. Marcus Smith takes him out, and it leaves the ball bouncing loose for Caleb Muntz to then run onto it, having followed up. And it is just the key thing about this team is Muntz and Kuravoli change them completely.
Yeah.
Those two players make this Fiji team click in a way that few other players could, because they're both simultaneously able to provide a structure to the team. And if you look at Muntz there, right, he just looks up and goes, okay, I understand the raw materials I'm working with here, right? And I know we could do, most other teams would hang the ball in the air there. We've got Ravatamanda on the wing one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Let's just give it to him and see what happens.
Absolutely.
And they know that they understand these players around them, and they know we are more likely to to get a net positive out of that, which for most teams might result in the player going to touch or, losing ground or even risking an interception.
Yeah.
For Fiji, you're like, that is more likely to pay off than hanging a high ball or trying to play more conservatively.
The worst case scenario for Muntz there is an intercept that Tommy Freeman could get. It's highly unlikely because Freeman's having to defend from in to out, and clearly he weighs that up and goes, well, that's worth the risk because I'm putting the ball in the air. So if Freeman does catch this, Ravintamanda's got enough time to readjust and catch him.
Yeah.
And if I can give Ravintamanda a 1v1 with anybody in the world, or Huita Wainingolo as well, again, happy to just give these guys possession because a 1v1 with these guys is going to get them over the gain line.
Yeah.
And again, Joshua Tuisova is a joke. He is an absolute freak. Both in the breakdown, he is just impossible to move. The size of his calves are next level. I've never seen a human being where the calves bulge out of their skin. It looks like his skin physically doesn't fit like the body that he's been given because he's that just hench and big and just bulges out of his own body. He's an incredible physical specimen. And there's a reason why every player who comes up against him says he's the hardest player to tackle that I've ever seen. And every time he gets the ball, they don't have to be in the front foot. They don't have to be structured. He will make a ball carry. And there are so many players who have that subtlety, who have the offloading game, who have long passes in this team. Tuisova doesn't need that. He maybe needs to do a short pop to Revovo every now and then, running straight a short line off him.
What age do you think Tuisova can play to in the French leagues?
Honestly, he can carry on going for ages.
I think he can play to at least Nonu's age.
I think so.
At least.
I think so. Because
that power, that kind of dynamism, even when he loses a bit of the speed, I don't think it'll matter that much.
Yeah, I completely
his raw
agree.
power is so
And
vast.
the speed obviously helps that.
Yeah.
But you're right. The power itself is a skill that he will outdo basically any other player in the top 14, if not most of world rugby in there. The guy is an absolute freak. One more player that I just really want to talk about, I'm just itching to talk about, is somebody who has swapped both jersey colour and hair colour from black to white. And that is, suddenly, there was a point where I was like, somebody next to me when I was watching this in the rugby club was saying like, do you think Fiji will beat England? And I was like, I don't think they'll win. And it's like, why is that? It's like, because England's structure is a bit better, their defence is a bit better. And I looked up at the scrum, I was like, and they've got a blindside flanker with grey hair. And immediately I then realised, oh wait, that's Peter Gosawa-Ku. Making his first cap for Fiji, former All Black, and he was utterly brilliant.
He was brilliant.
How good was he? He was all over the park. His work rate was incredible. And also his skill set was outstanding.
Look, considering the criticism of him always was his work rate is not that high, he sometimes fades out of games and gets bored and will just be checking his phone instead of clearing out a ruck.
Yeah.
And yet there was none of that. There was a proper he took his All Black cap so he get paid more when he goes to France and Japan. And
get your bag, bro.
To him. Yeah. But there's a bit of him who was like, I've always wanted to play for Fiji. He looked excitable and giddy in a way I've never seen him before.
Yeah.
And obviously he's always been a massive cult figure because he's a brilliant player, but would sometimes fade out of games and look kind of bored and disinterested in the way, you used to get forwards like that 20 years ago. And those forwards kind of petered out and they now play at lower levels and they don't quite make it up to the top level anymore. And he did because he was so good. And yet there was none of that on Saturday. I thought he was, it was one of the best games I've ever seen him have.
It's so good because when you're in the All Blacks, it's hard to just go straight in and become the big fish.
Yeah.
And in this case, because he is an All Black and that's such a prestigious club, that clearly really helped him out.
Yeah.
And he was just utterly brilliant and he was everywhere. And he obviously came in and took that offload for the try scored by Muntz. But he just had so many good touches, playing as an edge forward in this Fiji team as well. The amount of people in that pack who were sticking their hands up and going, no, make me the edge forward. I want to be that guy. But the potential of a back row of him, Mata and Tangi Vahalu, it does things to me.
Imagine if Yato was still going.
Oh, mate, that would have been the icing on the cake.
Okay, I do want to pick up on that before we talk about England. And we will talk about England, John.
We will,
Lawrence, we will talk about England. The disallowed Kuravoli try, which was brilliant and had me stood on the sofa. An absolute delight. But just again, as that example of what I was talking about Caleb Muntz and of him looking up and of how him understanding this Fiji team inherently, but also them all playing off each other. This comes directly off kick return. So Ravitamanda's taken the high ball, they're in contact, he's about to go to ground, and he goes, I can't be bothered with the whole someone's going to clear me out, they're going to get over me, going to do all of that, to present the ball back, combo with that, just pops the ball up in the air, and they play it on. Kurovali takes the ball, he's got the starts of his forwards are starting to get into line, they're starting to set up as though they're going to play for the following phase and crash this up, maybe he'll then kick it back, whatever. And so he just goes, okay, fine, have a go. England's defence also then not properly set, so they throw it out the back to Muntz, and Muntz looks up, right? And again, his backline hasn't set yet, but he gets a call from Royassi at fullback, who just points at one of the England players and goes, "Let's all go in on him." So 3 Fijians all run at the same body, and Muntz like times it perfectly to bring Royassi onto the ball, who then throws the offload, and then it's like this incredible break, all coming from targeting one player, and it's these players just thinking instinctively, right? It's like using those kind of first like couple of offloads and couple of passes to get everyone out of the game. And then from there, you can go from there. You know, Kurovali unfortunately loses it on the floor. It's a really tight TMO call.
Yeah.
You know, if the TMO hadn't stepped in, this had been given, no one would have complained too much.
Yeah, but they made the right call.
Ultimately, it's the right call.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's the right decision.
It's a shame. It's a shame because it would have been a better
It's a great try. It's a great try.
And yeah, as you mentioned, Kurovali had a really good game.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had a few shaky moments with his kicking game, but generally, as you say, he brings some structure to this. And you often think when Frank Lamani's not the starting 9 for Fiji that they'll lose a bit of that, but in Kurovali they've produced somebody who is just as good, frankly, at adding all of that to the game.
But also has like a stronger kicking game and more of a kind of tactical now.
Yeah. My one criticism of Fiji is pass the bloody ball to Huita Wainingolo.
Honestly.
The amount of times, whenever you see somebody either dummy to him or have him next to him and go, I'm going to do anything else, even if you're on your own goal line and you've got no room to pass it to him and he's fully marked and you want to kick the ball and everything else, you just give it to Wainingolo because he would score. He's just that guy. But
it's the old Jonah Lomu joke. It's a team game, so I want 13 of you to pass to Juita. Ravatamundi, you're fine. You can bring yourself. You're okay.
Yeah. You don't need to pass the ball to anybody.
Actually, Joshua, you're okay as well.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. We need 12 of you to pass.
We need 12 of you to pass.
Pass to Huita.
Yeah.
But
who every time he was involved, he was ridiculously good.
So good.
He wasn't involved nearly enough.
No.
But
this was, by his standards, this was a poor game.
This was a quiet
game. When I say
game.
poor game, I mean because he didn't touch the ball enough.
Yeah.
Not because he did anything bad or anything wrong. It's like, I just want you
Not
to get the
because
ball.
he wasn't exceptional every time he got it.
Exactly.
Like he won one turnover that was absolutely absurd.
He's a freak, mate.
That like,
He's a freak.
If Richie McCaw had won that turnover, it'll be on his YouTube highlights forever.
Yeah.
And it's his Fijian winger probably
Bigger pantry
He is one of the form players in the world.
Yeah.
Like he is top 10 form players on the planet right now.
Yeah.
And I love watching him so much.
Pass it to him.
Yeah.
He's so good with the egg thing.
They're playing France.
Oh, that's
like imagine what he can do against France.
Yeah, that's going to be good, isn't it?
Maxime Luca, kick the ball to him.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
We'll give you
Him
hair
against
if you
Beat
kick the ball to him.
Oh, wait, no, yeah. He'll be against Damien Penaud, who doesn't chase kicks, so...
Yes.
Just saying.
This is a lot of fun. Okay, speaking of chasing kicks.
Yes, England.
The England national rugby team.
Yeah.
For the men.
So, I'm going to ask you the same question you asked me about Fiji earlier.
Yeah.
Where would you rank this as a... How happy do you think England and England fans will be with this out of 10, maybe?
Those are two different questions.
Okay.
How happy do I think England fans will be? They'll go, we came through it in the end. It was a good Fiji team.
Yeah.
Lots of good players in there. We won in the end by 20 points. Pulled it away in the end. But there were some risky moments and it wasn't a perfect performance. If I was Steve Borthwick, I would just put a big tick next to this on my spreadsheet and I would go back to my other spreadsheets that I look at in order to find joy inside.
To name more squads.
Yes, I'd go back to naming 16 squads a week.
He's already named a squad before we recorded this video.
Yeah.
He's already named a squad for the next game. That's how much he loves
And he'll
it.
name another one in the time it takes us to edit it.
Yes.
Yeah. He will have named 6 squads this week. I sort of said this last week on the Australia game. England will beat every team in a similar manner by a similar margin for the rest of the time, or at least the rest of the time Borthwick is in charge. I think they would deliver pretty much the same performance against Chile and New Zealand. I think we'd be looking at a similar level of performance against Wales and the Springboks. Like, I just think that's the kind of team they are, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Borthwick wants to build. Because it's built on basically, there's 2 things Steve Borthwick, there's 3 things Steve Borthwick loves. One of them is naming squads.
Yeah.
The other 2 are data and leadership.
Yes.
Right? And he wants,
God, he had a lot of captains in this game.
everything has to be backed up by data, unless it's leadership, in which case he's okay for just being like airy-fairy.
Yeah, that's it. It's got to be data, or you can write VC next to it in closed brackets.
And not venture capital. Like, that would be data-based.
No.
He is pretty much exclusively building a game plan around what is the most likely set of tactics to work. And he will tweak that based on the opposition and what, Fiji are more likely to make mistakes doing and so on. And he'll tweak that, but broadly, it will lead to similar results. It will lead to them winning every game by maybe being slightly ahead, and then the last 10 minutes, depending on the quality of the opposition, maybe they score 1 try, maybe they score 3 tries, maybe they, are still looking for whatever it is to win it. But like, they're going to deliver a similar level of performance against everyone. And if I was Steve Borthwick, I'd be coming away from this going like, brilliant, we delivered the same level of performance 2 weeks in a row. And that was a bit of an issue, was kind of the emotional side of the game, right? Because he worked out so much on data that occasionally you had a performance where like the team didn't get up for it in the same way, the team weren't emotionally right, and they then slip off those levels. And they have got up for this game in the same way they did against Australia last week, and they haven't had to worry about, okay, there's a dip because we're playing a tier 2 nation. They haven't had to worry about, okay, we've brought in some different faces, we've changed that. If I was Steve Borthwick, I would be extremely happy. Or if I'm imagining myself as Steve Borthwick, I'm really happy right now, and I think we're in a good spot heading into New Zealand.
Completely agree. I couldn't agree more. Frankly, when you change the team as drastically as he did between those first 2 games, you can expect some drop-off in continuity.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really that. Granted, I think there's a couple of strands to this. I would say this is like the absolute most perfect run for a World Cup pool game that he could have asked for.
Yeah.
Because what he's done here is he has deliberately chosen to not play the style of rugby that would win him a World Cup if that's what he was going to do. He's not played the same tactics that he would play in a World Cup final if it was against Fiji tomorrow or whatever, that weekend. Because we saw, A, against Australia, and B, in his team selection for the upcoming game against New Zealand, which we'll no doubt cover in more depth at some point. Obviously, he had the whole Tom Roebuck, Freddie Stewart just climb in the air and target that aerial game constantly. He didn't do that in this game. He deliberately chose not to. And so you could say, oh, maybe we could have scored more points. England could have scored more points here as a fan, and you're right to differentiate that from England themselves. You could say they could have scored more points there, but no, they chose to instead play an attacking game.
Yeah.
Of course, they could have scored more points if it was a World Cup final and they'd have targeted that game a little bit more. But no, they want to improve other areas of their game by picking a team that is more tailored towards attacking rugby with ball in hand a little bit more. And so, again, big fat tick, because they were brilliant at that and they did develop their attack. Finn Smith was outstanding at 10. He really, really ran that attack. The try for Luke Cow and Dickey, I thought he
It's so well worked,
perfectly.
that try.
What I love about this is when they make the initial break down the left-hand side, there's this thing that we often do when we're talking about 10s, where we talk about how much they take the ball to the line, how flat they play, and so on. And it's interesting because you don't always want your 10 to take the ball to the line. Sometimes, especially when you've got pods of forwards running off them, you want them to be quite deep so they can assess their options. And if they want to sling the ball wider, it means the defence have to travel a lot further. However, with Finn Smith, what's great is he always gives himself the option to flatten up if need be. So he clearly gives Alex Mitchell a call here. It's similar to George Ford against Australia last week. To set up that disallowed Ben Earl try. He clearly gives Alex Mitchell a call, which means give me a ball that forces me to flatten up here. And Alex Mitchell just feeds the ball so it's far enough in front of him that he has to run onto that because Finn Smith asked for that, which means he then turns that 3-pod off him into a group of 4 rugby players who are all running hard, all running straight, and will penetrate a gap. And from there, Alex Mitchell takes a look to the left on the next breakdown, and Tommy Freeman just identifies this and goes, all I need to do is motor onto the ball. I don't care what Alex Mitchell does here. I don't care if he's done the wrong option by looking this way. All I need to do is make sure we don't go backwards. And he motors onto the ball and just gets tackled pretty much dead on the gain line. But it gives that illusion of the fact they're still on the front foot. 2 more phases, 1 right, 1 left. And Fiji are so far on the back foot that they're only making quite passive tackles because England are, as I say, they have that illusion of they are always moving forward. And it becomes so difficult to defend. It becomes so difficult to then get off the line when you're blowing out your arse because you've just backtracked about 20 metres.
The most impressive thing about this attack for England in general, and I think this try is the best example we've seen of it, certainly since Lee Blackett came in a couple of weeks ago, is how well everyone seems to know it. And they had a new attack coach take over only a few weeks ago. And yet, this is the benefit of doing those camps and doing those little, workaways and naming a squad to go and spend 2 weeks or 2 days together in, Timbuktu. Centre Parks, like going on the swings, whilst Lee Blackett drills them with the game plan. And everyone knew their role inside out. But the really impressive thing is how often those individual roles play. And if you look at the lead up to that Cowan-Dickey try, Marcus Smith's role is the most significant because the fullback is the position they seem to change the most, England, based on personnel, but also based on situation. And Marcus Smith, at one point in this attack, is organising the shape for second receiver and leaves a big gap, like leaves it open for Finsman to jog in too late because he's still getting back to his feet, and works his way in while Smith has organised the rest. And Smith then comes in, takes the ball, and knows he can easily just ship it onto Marcus Smith because Marcus knows what he's going to do next phase. Finn doesn't need to think about it, but he's arriving so late that it keeps the defence on their toes. And then, a few moments later, the defence is flattened up, like Fiji are a bit depleted in the middle, so Smith changes his role completely. He's no longer distributing, he's no longer thinking from a kind of playmaking point of view. He becomes like, I'm a strike runner. Yeah. And he comes in and hits a hard line on Smith's shoulder and gets over the gain line. And you're just looking at like the way in which these players are being trained to play different roles. We look at like one moment, and I apologise I didn't write down a time code, so we might not have footage here, but Ben Earl popping up in a wide channel and being used as a distributor in order to get Cunningham himself away down the wing. Yeah. Like, it is using these players in roles that they are familiar with, and Benno catches this ball, and he knows instantly his job is to ship it on. And that's not just rugby IQ, that's not just him looking up, that's clearly like, he's been drilled, you are now filling in as the kind of third centre, as everyone keeps talking about in the media, of like, can Benno play centre? Here he is doing it. Realistically, he's filling in as a centre here, because one of them's on the floor, and he can then pop up and throw that little pass to get his fellow forward away down the wing.
Luckily, I do know what point that is, so
Excellent.
don't worry. That footage is in there.
Yeah.
B, England play 1-3-2-2.
Yeah.
So at that point, you can use Ben Earl like a second centre.
Yeah.
No, or third centre.
Yeah, third centre.
You tend to have two on the field anyway. Thanks,
Dingwall
Cardiff
was that
in the
anonymous?
1950s.
Yeah.
So he
1950s
or whenever it was when they invented the centres.
1880s.
Yeah. Never mind. I'm so out of touch with
the 1880s rugby.
Non-modern day rugby. But that is the role that he can essentially play in this England team. And Ben Earl clearly really enjoys distributing the ball and that area to his game. So it's really exciting that they use him in that role so often. And they have him almost interchangeable at times with Ollie Lawrence, who is such a good hard runner and puncher of holes in defence, as well as that kicking game and the distribution that we know him for.
Yeah. This is another one of my takes, right, is on this game, is everyone keeps talking like, oh, are Henry Pollock or Ben Earl going to play centre? Well, they are. Like, that is happening right now. But everyone gets so caught up on the team sheet and not looking at what's actually going on in the game that they're basically being used as third centres on occasions where they're at the game. Yeah. In a kind of reverse of like South Africa using Deolande as an extra forward. Like, they want their backs and forwards to be interchangeable in most cases, other than their playmakers. Their playmakers are separate to everyone else. They're bringing the odd player like Tommy Freeman's coming in as being a playmaker occasionally. They want to develop that group. I thought Fraser Dingwall, one note I would give on this game is like, Fraser Dingwall, as a playmaker, did not have his strongest game. It's something I know he can do at Northampton level, but like I think he looked very good as a kind of strike runner and as kind of his other side of his role. But they want to be using him as a distributor more, as someone who can double up and play both roles. And I thought he only really played one of them to the fullest effect. And I may be just wrong on that. I may have just missed examples, and I apologise if I have. But it was one thing I'm looking at going like, okay, I think there's work-ons here. But obviously he did that against Australia. And I'm not a criticism of Fraser Dingwall. I don't know why I'm talking for so long about this. It's a very small point. But I thought broadly, like, England are building an attack that really works. Yeah. They're building a game plan that really works. They will continue to, through this data-built thing, play every game to a similar level every week.
Well, interesting on your point about Ben Earl, if he played centre. If he started a game at 12 or 13 for England, what he actually does on the pitch wouldn't really be very different.
No, it wouldn't.
He wouldn't really stand in different positions when he plays number 8.
Other than defensively in the 13 channel. Like, that's the only thing.
That's the point. Beyond sort of the third or fourth phase of attack, that is. First couple of phases, naturally, he will have a position that he's meant to be in. But beyond that, in structured play, he would more or less stand in the same position. What they would change is they'd maybe have someone like a Faye Boso act more as a playmaker in the absence of like a Henry Slade or, somebody, Fraser Dingwall you mentioned there, whoever he takes the place of to be that centre instead. But you're right, that's just the England attack. That's what a 1-3-2-2 attack really looks like, is that you want one of your centres and one of your, I want to say edge forwards, but the group of two, you want one of those to be a little bit like a centre.
Yeah.
So, as you say, it's an exciting attack. It's not quite positionless rugby, mate, that Eddie Jones always bangs on about, but within the England system, when everyone's on the same wavelength, it really, really works.
Absolutely. The data is working, I feel.
The data is working.
We'll get on to how the New Zealand game will go in a matter of days' time. But if I was an England fan, I would be quietly quite excited by this performance and by this whole game.
Big time.
I'm a bit like, this was a good Fiji team who, we obviously talk about at length, but like incredibly exciting. They also shut them down really well. Like, they're a really hard team to defend. As I mentioned, like, you look at that line right, the disallowed colour volley try, comes from them offloading a kick return, like, and just keeping it instantly getting into shape and being more threatening of unorganised play than they are of organised play.
Yeah.
But like, that's kind of semi-organised play, is like where this Fiji team excel, really. And they're able to shut them down completely off organised play and pretty well off unorganised play, you know? And every now and again, that middle distance in between, as we look at the, you know, the Muntz try and the disallowed Caravaldi try, both come from that. And I think they're just caught completely off guard by the fact Fiji would maul it.
Yeah. Cannaveri was excellent. Forgot to mention that.
He was, yeah.
Tavita Cannaveri, the Fijian hooker.
And captain.
Captain. He is such a good player. He's so vastly underrated when we talk about the hookers and world rugby. Like, he is such a good player.
He is.
But yeah, you're right. Moments of bullshit against Fiji are inevitable.
Yeah.
They will always happen. There will never be a Fijian test match where at least one moment of somebody just doing something absolutely insane and breaking the line.
And this is the thing I really like about Caleb Muntz, to just go back to it quickly. It's just like, he is such an orchestrated bullshit. He puts players in position for them to do bullshit. And that is invaluable with this team. And yeah, I'm really excited about like where Fiji can build from here. But also, from an England point of view, you'd be like, no, I feel pretty good going into that All Blacks game.
Big time.
Do you think Steve Borthwick has any other hobbies? Like, do you think he likes gardening? I know he supports Carlisle in the football.
Does he?
Yeah.
Wonder how often they name squads.